I'm Rob Campbell. I'm the General Manager and Editor-in-Chief of Transworld Business, the business-to-business title for the action sports industry. I'm definitely excited to be here today. It's a great event. It's great work. And this first panel, I think the topic is excellent, just kind of the role of action adventure sports and broadcast TV. We have a really strong group of panelists right here. We have Tim Reed, who's just promoted actually to VP of X Games. Congratulations on that, Tim. Tim's been the man we've all known for a long time. X Games is a great perspective. And then we have Rob Faris, who's the Senior Vice President of Programming and Production at Outside Television. Really great network. Lots of work. So, like Derek mentioned too, we want to keep kind of an open, interactive vibe. So, during the conversation, feel free to jump in. I'll try to take questions during the panel, and as opposed to just doing everything at the end. We'll kind of mix it up there. So again, open, free flow, and just should be a great conversation. So, Tim, I think we'll kind of jump right in with you actually, and just talk a little bit about the relationship, your perspective between events and content. Like how have the changes, content creation, distribution, and technology really kind of driven or allowed for changes in the events that you put on?
Yeah, I think it's morning, everyone. Morning. Kicking off the day. Probably out too late, but with events and content, I think the X Games, that's what we started as almost 20 years ago. Primarily clearly an event-focused brand, and as we've evolved over 20 years, we've been able to take advantage of the technologies and spin off different things. And probably the best example is the Reel series that we've been doing, which historically, filming video parts and kind of the film side of the action sports world, it was never able to be part of the X Games brand. But through the development of the Reel series, we've been able to allow and take in and bring in the film side. So in that concept, we actually just have the athletes, choose a few athletes, have them go out, film video part, we kind of wrap it into an overall contest format and give out a gold medal. So there's no building of a venue, there's no building of the X Games site, all the filming's done, and that's just one of the ways that we've been able to kind of take the event and the event brand and spin it off into different content initiatives like the Reel series. We have a clip of that.
X Games Real Snow Backcountry showcases 5 of the world's best snowboarders riding uncharted terrain across the globe. Their competition is based on a 90-second video clip that they create. The results, for the first time in X Games history, will be decided by peer-to-peer voting. This year, the riders include Andreas Wieg, Jussi Oksanen, Pat Moore, Ika Bokstrom, and Mikey Rentz. These are their stories, and this is X Games Real Snow Backcountry.
The general public, they have no idea what it really takes to get one clip. It's seriously insane.
You got to kind of earn being in the mountains.
There's always a risk of bad things happening out there, obviously.
Can't fight the nature, It'll take you down if you mess with it.
For me, it's the best part about snowboarding. Riding the stuff that you love to ride.
That's what's cool about filming is the mission, the journey of this whole building a video part. That's what drives me.
5 riders, 5 filmers, peer-to-peer, who put down the best video part, who takes home the gold.
And now, how does the distribution of that tie into the Winter X Games?
Yeah, so it initially started where we would, and we've been doing this for 4 years, we actually ran it as part of the X Games weekend. We've now pulled it out of kind of the event window, and we're actually going to run that in a couple weeks as a standalone show on ABC. So it's evolved from kind of being packaged and put into the event as its own standalone product, which has been good. So from a distribution standpoint, it works really well. There's great digital videos that so we have the ability that's digitally, it's great digital content, but then we're clearly like building this out to be useful for digital, television, social, and it kind of allows us to really take advantage of all those. And then at the end, I mean, it's just great to have a major network distribution for, you know, the film side of what it is that we do. And for me, it's just a great, from the brand side, it's just great that we're able to showcase that side of the sport. So going into next year, you know, we'll do 5 different one of those, you know, 2 snowboarding ones, a ski one, a skateboarding one, and a moto one. So it should be good.
Cool. You know, Rob, jumping into what you guys have going on, you also have a similar element to that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, outside, we're definitely more of a lifestyle channel. If you guys know the magazine, you kind of know where we sit. And, you know, our focus is films, documentaries, and episodic television and a story character base. But in the last year, we've gotten into the event side, I think in a unique way. We have, we're the home of the Swatch Free Ride World Tour. We brought that over, primarily a European event, but they do have a stop here in the U.S. We produced ourselves the Vermont Open up in Stratton. So when Stratton lost the U.S. Open of snowboarding to Vail, we were able to get involved on a grassroots level and kind of build that event. And more recently, it's something that's going to premiere on the network this fall, starting actually in a couple of weeks. We're partnered with the Volvo Ocean Race, which is a 6-month event. But it's not an event where America's Cup or an X Games or a Signature Series where you can really track winners and losers. It's really it's a documentary series. It's 39.5-hour episodes. They'll air once a week. That's really going to take the 7 boats that are going to circumnavigate the world in what is the world's biggest ocean race. And it's really more on the human side of the story. So we have a clip of that we can kind of show to demonstrate.
The ocean race, be advised, severe weather warning, gusting 4 or 5 knots this time. We recommend proceeding north of your position, bearing 010 degrees. Do you copy? Over.
Coming. My mustache will be better than Rome Kirby's. That's all I know. You're like. Don't leave without me.
Mayday, this is your movie star. Our position is 00.
So I think that, you know, that clip there can give you an example of where we take events, and the way we view them is a little different. I think, you know, from a filmmaker, a producer standpoint, there are a lot of opportunities out there that, you know, we're really interested in telling stories and characters, and there are so many out there. I think the advantage that both of us have is our genre has really been misrepresented on TV for a long time. And, you know, my job at Outside is really to help kind of define that and change it, so that the audience expands. It doesn't all have to be youth-based. I really think that, you know, I'm 41. I mean, you're close to 40?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Real close.
Yeah. And, you know, I still love this stuff, and I still dig it, and I still want to watch it, and I still want to participate in the active lifestyle. So I really think there's an opportunity as far as events go to get involved in that, you know, from a larger perspective.
Nice. So to kind of follow up on that, what's kind of your criteria with the network for, so to say, like kind of quality content? You know, as you look for the more long form stuff, what do you look for to really represent the sports well?
Well, I mean, the first thing I look at is, you know, is there an emotional tug, right? Is there something that's going to trigger a sense? And adventures, you know, you saw the word in that trailer. Really, that's kind of my jumping off point for anything that we get involved in, whether it's a film, whether it's a series, whether it's a one-off or even short form. You know, we really are looking for that natural danger, that natural progression in anything that somebody does, whether it's an expedition trip, whether it's a ski trip to South America. There's a lot of things that go on, and obviously in the news, you know, we've had some bad news in the last week. You know, things happen, and these athletes are out there risking themselves, no matter what the sport is, you know. And I think my job is to make sure that we tell that accurately and give people the biggest picture that there is. You know, it's not just heavy music, cool tunes, and good tricks. There's a lot more depth to that. And, you know, people that I look to represent our network are, you know, more in that realm.
Nice. Tim, is that similar to the criteria with X Games, whether you're looking at new events to bring on or things to showcase and package?
Yeah, you know, for us, we've got the opportunity going into next year. We will do 48 shows on ABC next year, and I think, I wouldn't say we have our criteria totally, you know, defined as what we gotta do. I think a lot of what I do is just try to put myself in a position to work with talented producers who can deliver what I just believe will always end up being a great product, whether it's in snow or skate or, you know, moto. I think that's part of what we do. We have a good deal with the ASP where they provide a lot of different stuff from the surf side, you know, and work with Maddie and Oakley on a film that we're going to show this fall, which is exciting. So I think it just, what I love about it just allows us to tell way more stories than we've ever been able to do before. We've typically had 2 weeks of the X Games and that's it. Whereas now we have this full year run where, you know, we can just tell more, do more, and, you know, that's what I think is the exciting opportunity.
Nice. Rob, you had brought up an example we were talking earlier that I really thought was a great topic for this, the idea of how just broadcast TV and just syndication overall, their opportunities can open up, you know, the chance to, you know, monetize a little bit more and get some more investment up front. Maybe the example what you guys have going on with TGR and kind of repurposing their content into a series, how that's worked.
Yeah, we've had great success with the Jeremy Jones trilogy, Deeper, Further, and Now Higher. And basically the model was, you know, TGR and Jeremy would spend 2 years on each of those respective films and shooting a ton of footage that gets boiled down, unfortunately for me, to a 70-minute film. You get to enjoy that film, but, you know, we came up with the model early on that, hey, let's dive into that and make it episodic TV. And we did that with Deeper, and it became, you know, 10 episodes, so 5 hours of really good content. And with Jeremy in specific, I mean, it works because he is a very articulate guy, and he, you know, the thought process in every trip he took was successful. So we had success with the model of taking a film and then, you know, working with the production company early on, hey, let's do this for TV as well. So not only do you get the extension of the title into a television series, but I think you open your audience, and ultimately it's about the sale, whether it's iTunes downloads, DVD sales, and, you know, I think the producers would be happy, and I know CFO of TGR is in here, he could probably tell you, we're trying to expand that fan base, because, you know, the movie theater experience is great, and that fan base is baked in their core. And I think what we have the opportunity to do is really expand that, and we've done it. And in fact, we're going to do it with Matchstick and the movie that you guys are going to see this weekend, Days of My Youth. So I think it's caught on. We're doing it with a lot of different production companies, and, you know, I'm looking forward to talking with a lot of you guys about furthering that experience, because it does work. It does work.
And how do you go about, you know, finding partners for that? Is it kind of an organic thing? They come to you? Are you seeking them out?
You know, I've done it with Sender Films. They have a Real Rock tour. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the climbing scene, but we've done that. It's one of the most popular series we have. We're going into season 3, as I mentioned. TGR done it with Red Bull on some of their film properties. So it goes both ways. You know, part of me being here this weekend is to really engage with the community and talk more. We do have, our go-to people that we've been working with for a long time, but I love the concept of doing it. I think it's good money spent for us, and it's great profit for the company because they're already investing, and the brands are already investing in the project. So it's just an extension that's only going to further the life of that project.
Cool. Nice. Tim, kind of getting back to where you're at with X Games right now, maybe you talk a little bit about just kind of the evolution of the content strategy that you create. Now that you mentioned going from a once-a-year event to a series of events and episodes and everything. How has that changed through the way you go about planning for that, and how do you tackle it?
Yeah, so our big, at least what we're trying to implement from an overall brand and content strategy is the notion that we're always on, so we're always producing and distributing content on our platforms day in and day out. And so we've got these, the two big events of Aspen and Austin, and then how do we smartly drop in multiple branded events throughout the year. And then, and those can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I mean, we did a world record mountain bike backflip with Cam Zink this past summer. We did a game of skate on the Bristol campus. And so some things that are just a little bit smaller and a little less heavy lifting, but the brand still has like a really nice extension. So ideally, on a day in and day out basis, the brand is out there, and we're producing and distributing and providing our audience content, on a daily basis. And I'm excited about the platform because for the first time, really, we have a true big reach platform on a weekly basis. So with our ABC show called The World of X Games, it actually allows us to, produce against something, but everything we produce for those shows, we take all the features out, we slice and dice it, it becomes digital, it becomes social, and we try to leverage and just bring a ton of utility out of everything that we're producing for that show. And just it all falls back to every day, we're always on and providing something to our audience.
What about, would we stay on that example of the recent Mammoth, the backflip? What's the time frame on that from the conception of it to the execution, and then what was the execution like on that, and how much did you get out of it?
Yeah, that's a really good example because it actually came through Monster originally. Cam had been talking to Cody, dresser at Monster, about wanting to do a world record stunt. And then I got into the conversation and then was able to basically package it as an overall concept. We went to Mammoth, got Mammoth involved. So it was a nice partnership in the sense we did the television. Monster came on as a partner. Mammoth picked up the staging side. But it was one of those moments in time where it was allowed us to actually program it live on ESPN. And you still can't, there's the essence of a live moment like that. I mean, we do a lot of, packaged programming, and it's still hard to, the impact of a big live moment like that is really, really significant versus, call it the package show that comes out. I mean, the viewership was great. You get this pickup in SportsCenter, you get the pickup on front page of .com, and all of a sudden, these moments in time become that much bigger. So the impact's there.
Nice. And then at the aftermath of it, how did you measure the social kind of echo and whatnot? Were there returns there?
Yeah, I mean, just something like that. I mean, you drive 500,000 video views on just that one clip. You drew 1 million viewers on the first broadcast, and the second re-air drives another 1 million, and then all of the social. So all of a sudden, you're bundling up all this impression base, and it's pretty significant.
Maybe we should take a moment to relive this moment and check it out. We have it queued up. So we talked about it.
The gate is open. You see him get a few cranks in. He starts pedaling. Once he stops, that's his comfort zone. Rely on his bike speed.
So without getting into too many specifics behind it, one-time event, one hit, trick like that, positive ROI for the network overall?
Oh,
both
yeah.
Monetization and everything?
I think it's a good example where, like, for me, I'm just in a position to try to help bring these ideas to life. So if it's athlete idea with producer with company, that I can just be in the middle of helping to package that and ultimately bring more audience to all these different cool things that are going on.
Nice. So what about getting into, obviously, the bigger question of the business, the monetization of all this? Rob, how do you look at, especially when you look at the longer tail, that content that's not just on broadcast, where you're just putting through your distribution networks? How do you kind of deal with the things that are just going to be brand awareness versus pay to play stuff, or how do you kind of decide?
Yeah, it's interesting. With 24 hours, 7 days a week, we have a lot of time to fill, right? And so I think there's opportunities for us to be very creative with any producer, with any brand, and and obviously we produce our own originals. So on the network itself, we're in 30 million homes around the country. We're growing, and so outside of that, we've looked at ways to kind of extend that and monetize. So there's the typical advertising, and then obviously you get cable revenues from the operators, and that's the same with ESPN or any national kind of cable channel, and that's helpful. I think for brands in specific, they're out there, and especially the marketing groups, they're working with the athletes, they're working with the producers on trying to come up with concepts that are going to make noise to help them ultimately sell their products, right, and whatever that may be. We have developed a digital pipeline that started with OutsideTelevision.com, but it's now expanded beyond that, and we've done partnerships with Yahoo Screen, with Roku, with Amazon Fire. We just finished one with Sony, and we'll soon be finishing one with Xbox as well, to now introduce an app, our app, in a short form way to kind of introduce a whole new audience. It could be a cord-cutting audience that doesn't watch TV, and a lot of the demo is that type of audience, which is great. But it also gives brands opportunities to really get in, and work with us. Because, from an original big series type thing, we talked about the hires and those things, and the Volvo Ocean races. There's that kind of fills up pretty quick. So how do I kind of extend and get people in the door and start working with us, developing relationships? And it's really through the short form. And in a lot of ways, the money there is not great, yet. And I think most people are experiencing that. But if there's a reason to promote and market and push, I think we now have built an engine that can help do that in a very effective way. And I do think the industry, from an advertising perspective, will catch up with that. I think the viewership is going to always improve. I mean, Yahoo Screen alone is like 101 million views a day. I mean, it's huge. People talk about the YouTube channels, and everybody has one. These guys have one. We have one. Most brands have their own. That's cluttered now. It's really kind of, that space is not premium, if you would. And I think we're focused on a premium experience for a user, whether that's on our network, on TV. Obviously, if you guys get the magazine on the print version, or now in the digital space, and really kind of cutting away from the clutter that is out there. I mean, there's just a ton of it. And we're trying to give our users a pretty unique experience. And if there's money to be made on it, that's a plus, right? And I think a lot of that content is being developed and underwritten by brands, which is important. And I think it gives them an ROI ultimately, which is the view. And how many views can this get? How many impressions can it get? And we're focused on working with everybody on that. And we just want to become a bigger engine to help that work.
We have another great panel this afternoon, all about the brand content.
No, it's a big part of our industry. I mean, we'd be lying if we ignored it.
Yes, it is. What about, are there limitations you come up against with cable operator contracts or anything like that? What you can share? How do you overcome those?
Yeah, there's a little bit. I mean, not to bore this audience with some of that business, but there are restrictions on long-form programmings, whether it's films or episodic TV, that don't allow us to push that out on a wide level. We can do cut-down versions, and I think it's 7 minutes per episode that we can share for free with a general digital audience. So obviously the model is if any operator, Comcast or Cox or DirecTV or whoever, is paying a sub fee for that person to a network, they don't want that content out there for free. So there are little, that's why the bigger projects are longer lead, number one, and number two, more lucrative for everybody, brands as well as producers as well as the networks. But I think the digital is just a good way to introduce, and I use it. I don't know if Tim does this as well. I've used digital now almost as my development, right? If we're looking at a character, we're looking at an athlete, we're looking at a concept, let's do it in short form first, see how it plays, how an audience reacts, and the analytics are great, right? And you can see that right away. That may transition, and we've had it happen at Outside, where a short form piece has turned into a long form series because of what we saw, in the online analytics. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the real series itself started as a digital idea and has become a television show. And that's the same thing. We actually had one of our shows this year that was actually a social initiative first, where it was all social content in terms of like best moments, and take the content, repackage it, put it into a show, and then there was a sponsor across the social rollout, then the digital clips, and then the television. So it worked really well from a packaging standpoint.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You mentioned on the social side, there's Twitter Amplify out there. We have a deal with them, so they're always calling us looking for cool content that can be pushed out there. So now we're looking at projects that might not even be strictly quote unquote digital. It could be a social push, right? You're blasting things out. They're more immediate. They're shorter, obviously, and certainly simpler to edit and produce. But I know that the Facebooks of the world, the Twitters of the world are getting more aggressive in the video space, which helps all the big brands try to get out there and push their stuff.
Nice. You touched a little bit on how to kind of measure these things, and so how has it changed in traditional broadcast television now? How do you deal with the ideas of YouTube views being so clear? Oh, there's too many views versus when you talk about we're in so many households and this, and we're seen by this many people, but everyone's like, well, how do you prove that to me? I don't know. I know that this gets views. Somehow that's more believable. How do you guys kind of maneuver around that and explain that to?
I think for us, and Tim's got a more limited spaces. We'll run a series more. I mean, we'll do re-airs. We kind of take that HBO or Showtime model. The premiere hits on a Monday. It's going to get 4 or 5 airs throughout the week in different time slots. And it'll have a longer shelf life, so the overall impressions will get there, right? Even though we're a small network, I think the way we look at it, it's not like, okay, it's one and done, you never see it again. And we work with NBC a lot. We have the World of Adventure Sports, similar to the World of X. You guys are familiar with that. Our kind of parent company purchased the World of Adventure Sports in this past year, so we can use that. It makes its run on NBC once a quarter. A little bit on Sports Network, and then to Outside Television. So, we kind of get more impressions that way. So it's not as hard for an advertiser to see, wow, this brand for 8 months really did well, and tracked at different times of the year. And obviously things are seasonal. So, you want to try to ramp up your winter stuff. Like we're already in business. I mentioned Hire and Days of My Youth. Those are things that are going to hit for us in January, right? And we're going to start promoting them now. So for next winter, we're going to start that conversation in the summer. So we're always trying, or surf is a little easier. I think you can kind of bleed across a full calendar the way it works. So it depends on the sports too.
Mm-hmm. Did you have those challenges as well? Someone say, "Hey, my athlete put on a POV camera, did a backflip, and got more views than the thing I had paid to do with you, so I don't care about this."
I think in some ways it just comes down to who you're having the conversation with. So in some ways it's just pretty straightforward. If you're buying media, buying impression, it kind of is what it is. Kind of it's just pretty direct in that way versus another conversation with someone who is more concerned about branded content or brand travel, and then you probably get more into the conversation about how do you take whatever content you're producing and just make sure it's hitting all the different platforms and all the different audiences in a smart way. I just feel like it's just kind of two different buyers in some ways, or two different conversations that go on a lot in that respect.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I had promised in the beginning a very interactive panel. I have not delivered on that. Yeah. So I want to make sure at this point, encourage people, if you have any questions on any of the topics we've hit on so far, to speak up and ask any questions. Otherwise, I will kind of continue on with other lines of questioning. But at this point, I would love someone to, yes?
On the event business for X Games, you guys expanded globally. You had your experience there. You repositioned.
We learned a lot. Absolutely. You know, it's because the event business is tough. I mean, it's a lot of, you know, heavy lifting on the ground. It's not, you know, they're expensive projects, and you know, I think the business itself was, you know, obviously we pulled back and went back to just focusing on two because of, you know, and essentially the business wasn't there. But in some ways too, it was it actually allowed us to, like, I think, learn a lot about, you know, doing 6 events all around the world, and learned about our audience and our fans, you know, in a lot of different places. Because we had huge crowds everywhere we went. The problem was, you know, we didn't have the necessary advertising to, you know, obviously cover all the different things that we were doing. So there's a lot of learning, and that's where I feel like we take a lot of those, and that's why I love the strategy that we have now, where, you know, you focus on the 2 big ones and with great distribution, and then try to figure out how you can do smart, smaller branded events that have like big pop throughout the year. You know, it feels a little smarter. But you know, we'll go back to the international business for sure. I mean, I think that's where we'll be able to take all the learnings and go back and do it, you know, do it the right way. I think we learned probably how to do it the right way.
Yes.
And distributed in different places. They take a 30-minute show, go to a 7-minute clip, and then split it again and put it on Facebook or YouTube, and then split again into Instagram or whatever. If you do stuff like that.
Yeah, we do it a lot. I mean, you know, again, for us, it always premieres on TV, so it's got to have that initial pop on the network. And I think from there, what we do is we work with our team, both on the digital media side, the marketing side, and depending on the conversations we're having with the individual production companies. It's not here's the blueprint. It kind of is case by case, and you try to time it around newsworthy stuff. So, you know, I try to pull an example. You know, if we're doing something on an athlete and he's been or she's been in the news recently, we'll revisit that clip socially and get that back out there, whether it's on our Facebook or Twitter, or again with the kind of the pipeline I've built. You know, we have an opportunity to introduce older clips to a new audience, whether it's on Yahoo or Roku or any of those platforms I had mentioned earlier. So I think it's a good way for us to say, okay, you know, even though the content, if it's good story and there's a good moment, that cut down, you're able to live that better. You know, you're really getting the meat of the whole episode, and then you have that opportunity to share it again and just, you know, give it more legs and longer life. So, and then it sits there for a while, and you see how people react to it, share it, reposting it, commenting on it, etc.
One of the big things we're just making sure we're organized to do is to natively make sure we can produce against the platform. So don't assume the same short clip works for Facebook, that works for YouTube. So that actually, like, where we have our production team set up, where the Instagram clip gets this, the Snapchat needs this, the Vine video gets this, and just don't assume it's kind of one size fits all. So you take, you know, kind of the main piece of content, and then you're gonna slice and dice it and put it out, you know, in a variety of ways. We actually take a little different strategy where we don't necessarily worry about premiering it, so to speak, on the network, because we feel like a lot of ways the audience is different. You know, like our ABC audience clearly isn't really the same audience that's obviously on, you know, heavy into digital in that way too. So it's a little bit more about just trying to seed the content in a variety of audiences, so you hit different avenues.
You mentioned earlier that you test things digitally and then take them, you know, up the ladder. Does that hierarchy, obviously it still exists in your mind, that at the top is the more like long form, you know, broadcast content? Do you feel that that's still the hierarchy in the minds of most of the consumers, or are there parts that you think may be changing in that?
I think television is far, like, I know with my little kids, like, that's not their main way they consume. So, you know, I think for an audience in a segment that it is, and that's, you know, that works, and and making sure you're delivering it in that way. But I think to assume everyone's there, they're not.
No. I would say also from a time, just sheer timing, there's a lot of work that goes into putting something on TV, right? And there's a lot of process that goes through the back and forth with the company and the notes and all of that. I think the digital, we curate every day. I mean, hundreds of clips. So that's immediate. And to Tim's point, that doesn't necessarily have to correlate to the TV, because the TV project may take 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is, where every day we have to feed the machine of the digital thing. So, you know, it's almost two different mindsets altogether.
Yes, Maddie.
I had a question. I just was thinking about a comment that Derek brought up in the meeting about the original meeting was a lot about networking, right, and bringing people together in the industry. And now we've evolved to having such a great opportunity to work with these guys up here for talking to the masses with great opportunities. So I wanted to kind of think of how can we walk away from this is when we were going to pitch ideas, right? If we're a brand or a phone company or independent, what's the best way that you guys like to consume the pitch, right? And how is it the most efficient way for you to do that so that we can walk away and say, okay, this is going to be the best way to talk to these guys when they have the time, if they have the time. Just want to hear a little bit about what's the best way to
You want to hit it first?
I can't, yeah. It usually works really well over beers. That's first and foremost. I like, for me, it's just great to be able to have the conversation, and it's wide open. And I think, I was here for I don't know if it was the first or second meeting, and coming from the X Games perspective back then, I actually didn't know if I fit in at that point, because we were just doing the event, and around the table was, all the talented filmmakers and everyone who was producing films, and I didn't, I was like, oh, we're this event over here where I feel like, fast forwarding to where we're at now as a brand and platforms, there's a lot of good conversations to have with, a variety of, filmers, producers, what have you, because we're not just an event anymore. We've got channels to work with and distribution, and that's really where we want to, from our own brand standpoint, take it.
I mean, for me, I'm in a unique position that we're small enough at Outside still, where even at my level, I'm interacting every day, responding to emails, or if somebody pitches us blind or cold and I don't have that relationship, I'm open to responding, or our team, somebody in our group will definitely get back on it. I think I model what we do more like what Discovery and Nat Geo do, where we have cycles of production, and the great thing about the genre that we have that mainstream cable networks don't is we have seasons. And so there's natural timelines that we need to be on top of, and then there's things that we have more longer lead time on. So, for me, if I try to get to a lot of things to do the face-to-face, at least meet people for the first time, if I don't know them, and develop a relationship. Beyond that, it's, you could just shoot me an email and just start that way. If there's a digital deck or a sizzle reel or whatever it is, all of it's great. And starting that, I'll react to that pretty quickly. Certainly having a call after that, or if we want to get real serious, having the face-to-face meeting and really drilling down what it is you're talking about. Just to really sum it up, for us, we use our summer months to develop and kind of start our slate in the fall into production. Now that production may start in October, it may not start till January, it may not start till next spring, but at least we have that, everyone's on board, and then we move into contracts, and the good news is a lot of you guys are doing the work already, right? And sometimes if we can get involved before you get out there, we can tweak it a little bit, just say, Rob's looking for this, and not that it's going to deter from your film. And by the way, we want films as well, and we have a huge film library of stuff that we're licensing from filmmakers. We're not producing original yet, but so for that, it starts with an email, a call, or again, face-to-face here, start it, and I'll be available afterwards to talk to anybody that wants to kind of grab my ear for a little bit, for sure.
And then on that brand level, we actually have an example clip of one of your series called Branded, which is a great opportunity to tie in with the brand. So maybe we should show that one as we have it. That'd be a good way to kind of wrap up.
Branded, an Outside original production. We'll explore the newest equipment and cutting-edge technologies from the top outside brands around. Join us for Branding, only on Outside Television.
Black Diamond is the leading innovator in the design, manufacture, and distribution of high-end equipment.
Keen is an outdoor brand that started with a hybrid notion. Keen is one of the very few brands that can build footwear in the US. It's a very big initiative for us.
One of the most important things for the Thule brand across all the categories, we put every single product we make through rigorous testing and have very high standards.
We're very excited about being able to really leap forward of where a lot of the industry is.
We like to deliver real innovation.
We really want to bring first-rate science and technology to off-grid products.
The product should do what it says it's going to do.
Mad Hardle was founded as an alternative to the status quo, and they set this pattern in place of doing things differently.
We design, we forge, we push the threshold of what's possible.
We looked at how we were doing things and thought of ways to do what we'd been doing better.
I'm taking what I learned about pushing the envelope in the mountains and applying it to innovation.
Outside Television presents an Outside original production, Branded.
Just real quick to sum that up, I mean, you guys know our magazine and the gear guides, the buyer guides are two of the most popular issues every year, you know, summer and winter. And we struggled with how to, and our audience loves gear, as everyone does. We all do, because we all live in this world that just creates crazy stuff. So we kind of came up with this as a creative way, and Chris Crowley is our EP, and he's in the back here. And it was really his idea to come up with a cool way to kind of showcase that and really work with the brands that, they're struggling to get their messaging out to a mass audience that really is targeted. I mean, we're mass, but not in the way that ESPN is mass. I mean, we're very targeted to a demographic and a fluency of people who love this type of stuff, early adopters, et cetera. So it's been very effective. We're in our second season on it, and we're going to continue to work with all brands on different formats on it.
Excellent. Cool. And in the spirit of networking, you guys going to be around for the rest of the conference? You'll be hanging out in the round table? Come on, please. That's it. Out, drop the mic, walk off. So
Here all weekend for sure.
Excellent. So that's going to go to time for this one. Thank you both for your time. It was excellent to get behind this.